Hello everybody, welcome to the Q Sound Productions YouTube channel. My name is Soundwave, and it's a name I so shamelessly stole from my favorite Decepticon. And today I'm going to be talking about a topic that really interests me. You can call it a hyperfixation I've had for the last couple of months now, and I've decided to share my thoughts to the public to see if anybody agrees, disagrees, or feels the same way I do. So Marvel Tokon is the new premier fighting game that Arc System Works is currently helming. You can see gameplay of it right now. I believe this is just magic gameplay I took from a pro player. It's the company's new game over the many years of game development in the fighting game space, and it's a full-on Marvel Comics centered fighting game in their own signature style. Now, to nobody's surprise, this specific game sparked a ton of controversy for its clear resemblance to the beloved, iconic, and currently dormant Marvel vs. Capcom franchise, a franchise still loved and fondly remembered to this day. Despite the very poor reception of the last release back in 2017, I think it's fair to say that the legacy Marvel vs. Capcom left behind is nothing short of positive and timeless. So many people around the world have fond memories of these classic games, and rightfully so. They were packed full of style, personality, and a clear love for Marvel Comics and its history. But now, it's 2026. The world has changed, and it certainly isn't the same as it once was so long ago, around the 90s and early 2000s. Most people have unlimited access to all information ever created right in the palm of their hands, and now Marvel has moved on and has tried to partner with the new studio to create yet another premier fighting game for Marvel. And most people started to believe that this was the death sentence for Marvel vs. Capcom ever coming back. Now, do I think MVC has died and will never come back? No, not at all. Just because Arc System Works is tackling their own Marvel fighting game doesn't mean that Capcom can't do their own thing with the property as well. One modern fighting game can and will replace 30 years of legacy that Marvel built with Capcom. Game development also isn't as one-sided as it once was, and exclusivity isn't as prevalent as it once was in the industry. Capcom has proved that they are interested in collaborating with Marvel still. They re-released every classic MVC game into one new collection, and on top of that, they fixed up old assets, they made new promotional artwork and new remixes of the classic themes. It's clear that Capcom hasn't forgotten about their legacy with Marvel, but here we are back at Marvel Tokon, and it's currently standing as the current Marvel fighting game, and the game finally released, and people seem to love it. I'm very happy it's doing well despite my clear bias towards Marvel vs. Capcom. I do want to make that apparent, I do have a strong bias towards MVC the most, mainly because I grew up with it, I love it, but that's not to say that I am not interested in Marvel Tokon. I will admit, when I first heard of it, I was kind of upset and deeply what is happening, like, why is Arc System Works trying to do a Marvel fighter? Like, that's Capcom's thing. But as time has passed, I've come to just kind of accept that they're doing their own thing with it, and it can be good in its own way, completely detached from anything to do with Marvel vs. Capcom, But that question still lingers in my mind, not gonna lie, did Marvel Tokon execute Marvel better than Marvel vs. Capcom as a whole? Well, to give the TLDR answer to this question is that it's all subjective, and honestly, not even really a fair comparison if you really think about it. Arc System Works is clearly doing their own thing, and that's what I wanted when I first heard that this game was getting announced. If they just straight up ripped off Marvel vs. Capcom, then I, and of course many others, would have been rightfully upset. But they didn't, although I'm sure nobody would argue when I say there is heavy influence in a ton of character animations, mechanics, and even music now. Now, to get one thing straight, this video won't be a deep and technical analysis of the deeper mechanics of this fighting game. I won't be really going into the competitive talk, and I'm not really interested in doing that personally. Trust me, there are thousands of other channels that can cater to that topic, and they do it amazingly and remarkably, and no, what I'm interested in is discussing the finer artistic details of this game, if you will. So basically everything else except the gameplay. So does Tokon shine where Marvel vs. Capcom doesn't? Well, in terms of presentation, it's no surprise that Arc System Works has their own art style down, they got it down. They have that clear and vibrant, beautiful looking anime aesthetic that permeates through their library of titles, giving more of a cel-shaded style over 3D models and giving off that illusion that your favorite anime is literally jumping off the screen. Their art style is also very apparent in how they designed these classic Marvel characters. Now, it's no secret that Marvel Comics has its roots in Western design, but Tokon leans all the way into full Japanese anime interpretations of these characters, and I'm all for that. Again, no one style is inherently better, it's really just about personal preference. However, in terms of faithfully bringing these classic Marvel characters to life and considering their roots, MVC succeeds where I think Tokon personally fails. Tokon made a wise choice in doing new adaptations of these characters. Spider-Man looks familiar enough but has that unique edge that differentiates it from most depictions of the character. Magic looks almost nothing like her comic book origins, but I think she's a lot better for it. Same with Iron Man, him having a more Sentai Gundam-esque design is really cool and very different. But when you see Capcom's rendition of Spider-Man, for example, it's like they were ripped straight out of the original comic books. Same with Captain America, Iron Man, Hulk, Wolverine, etc. This is because Capcom leaned heavily into the origins of these characters' original Western designs, while still giving them their own unique flair. Remember, the classic MVC games were released before the MCU was even a thing, Marvel was certainly very popular, but it didn't take off into global billion-dollar status, until the movies. So many interpretations of these characters had to take a lot of liberties from what they saw on the pages of comic books. Capcom saw this and they decided to animate them as vibrant and with so much personality. Let's use Spider-Man as an example, right? Everybody loves Spider-Man. I love Spider-Man. You love Spider-Man, I think. So his stance has that confident cockiness that we all know and love him for. But when he's using his specials, for example, web swing and web ball, look how beautifully he just swings across the stage. They combine two of Spider-Man's most iconic characteristics into his main special moves. The way he jumps, the way he dashes, taunts, poses is crafted with so much personality and homage to his origins. Again, Spider-Man is very overconfident when he's Spider-Man, right? He quips and he jokes around with his opponents. He's agile, quick, and that's displayed a lot in his playstyle. When you play as Spider-Man, you're encouraged to jump around and dash a lot to secure quick combos. Not saying that Tokon doesn't have this, but the classic influence is certainly much stronger on the MVC side. Marvel vs. Capcom also has much more interesting stages. Tokon stages look good with, again, a very vibrant and overall grand scale, but besides the X-Mansion, I personally think that these backgrounds are way too cluttered and they have little too much going on, and most of them don't really scream Marvel to me. A lot of them seem kind of generic. For example, New York looks like any other generic sci-fi city. Marvel vs. Capcom stages, however, had a unique theme of crossing over the many eras of Marvel and Capcom's history. One of my favorites is the Metro City background in Marvel 3, blending together aspects of Capcom's final fight with one of the most iconic X-Men stories, Days of Future Past. The original comic cover was lovingly recreated and remixed on the stage with the Wanted poster, having fun references to classic mutants and also Capcom characters like Mega Man. You can also see some classic enemies from the original Final Fight game in there as well. And of course, who could forget the giant sentinels that are roaming the city? Another cool reference to the original comic where the sentinels hunt down mutants. And it also makes a lot of sense lore-wise to that specific story. The original Days of Future Past story had the mutant Kitty Pryde traveling back in time to basically stop the assassination of an important senator, causing a dark future where Sentinels inherently hunt down and kill all mutants. So it makes sense that the Sentinels would hunt down other Capcom heroes with special abilities such as Mega Man, Captain Commando, or Amingo. There was a clear love in creating the MVC stages, and I think it really shows. Another great example is the New York stages. MVC 1 feels like the actual Big Apple with all those beautiful orange and red and just brown colors that just make the city pop. Marvel 3 City Stage is also my personal favorite, having this extravagant Macy's Thanksgiving style parade type feel with the Spider-Man, Servbot, and Beautiful Joe parade floats. It's not only a reference to one of New York's most iconic traditions in the real world, but again, it's a clever and cool display of the crossover theme. And what's the most important aspect to me in which decided game I personally prefer comes down to the music.
Let's go, bub.
Marvel vs. Capcom has always had the definitive themes of these characters to me. And I mean, there's a reason most Marvel Tokon compilations and reels I see, they always use the Marvel vs. Capcom themes for these characters. Now, let me reiterate, that's not to throw shade at Tokon's music. I would classify Tokon's music as, again, doing their own thing, leaning more into what Arc System Works is kind of known for, that Guilty Gear, heavy metal aesthetic that's classified in those games. I mean, Iron Man's theme is a great example of that. It's a pretty fun theme. And I personally gotta give props to Magic's theme in this game. Easily the best, hands down, and my personal favorite, like by far. But then you have themes that don't really match well with the characters to me, like Captain America's theme, for example. Removing my clear MVC bias for a minute, I would never imagine this. As describing Captain America. When you think of Cap, you think of, well, America, right? No, but you think of his humility, you think of compassion, his leadership, basically displaying what America should be. Hopeful, optimistic, having an unwavering moral compass, and being warm to all walks of life. Marvel vs. Capcom displays this in spades. It's heroic, it's hopeful, it's high energy, and screams to never give up in the heat of a battle. And again, I'm not trying to say that the Tokon themes are bad. I might not be a fan of some, or honestly most of them, but I think they're just a little misguided. The tracks themselves are fine, I just don't think they capture most of these characters well. Spider-Man's theme is a little too cluttered for me. And the one theme that I cannot defend at all, and I genuinely personally despise, is Dr. Doom's theme. Now, I have a lot to say about this. Dr. Doom is the epitome of a classic supervillain, right? He's arguably one of the greatest villains ever written in fiction. He's a tragic character that many see as an anti-hero in many ways. He's immensely intelligent, powerful, and calculated. While most heroes are playing chess, Doom is basically playing the entire board and 50 more boards. He's always 50 steps ahead of everyone else in the Marvel Universe, and his only real downfall is his ego. So when I think of a theme that encapsulates Dr. Doom, I think of this. This theme is one of my all-time favorites. It's powerful and intimidating, yet also somber and tragic. I think it perfectly captures the spirit of Dr. Doom's character, a man who wants to save the world by destroying it and recreating it in his own image, and a man who sees himself as a god, but of course, kind of leaning back into that somber side, was once a human, hurt by those he trusted. And here is what Marvel Tokon does with Dr. Doom's theme. And I'm just gonna say it, the xylophone is way too goofy, and the heavy rock doesn't really match the tone of his character. Marvel vs. Capcom 3's theme had a lot of rock, but I think it suited it well with that very grandiose choir coming in, and it just blended together better. I feel like there was more heart and personality in that theme. So while the Tokon themes are unique and different in their own regard, it's really no contest when it comes to which will stand the test of time. Again, it's not even fair to Tokon to compare its music to 30 years of iconic themes that most people have listened to. And I'm, again, in no way trying to disrespect the composers and artists that created the music for Marvel Tokon. I love and appreciate they wanted to do their own thing. But again, you know, a good amount of Tokon themes are great in their own regard. And I think that's a key takeaway with this video. I'll admit my bias fully again. You know, I grew up with Marvel vs. Capcom, MVC 2, MVC 3, Marvel Superheroes, X-Men Children of the Atom. You know, these were before my time, but I had an uncle who introduced me to all of these games. He had all of them on, you know, PS2, on, you know, the collections they had, and I just adore it, you know, I adore them. So when hearing the news that Arc System Works took the property for the time being, it kind of sucked, you know, because it made me think that we would never get Marvel vs. Capcom again, you know. All these years of legacy built up was shattered just because of one, you know, mediocre to bad game. But through time passing, I realized that I should give Tokon a chance. And I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it's a pretty fun game. It's very, very fun, and I can see and understand why so many people love it. Again, it's all personal preference. I just hope that I can shine a light on why Marvel vs. Capcom has stood the test of time, and why so many people have fond memories with these games. And here's to hoping that one day, we can be taken for a ride at least one last time. Thank you for watching my video. Please comment if you agree or disagree. I'm always open for discussion. That's what makes these games so fun to me, you know? I love hearing people agree and disagree, their own opinions, what they think. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day, full of peace of mind, productivity, and I'll see you guys in the next one.